I wanted to talk this afternoon about meditation and its place in daily life. You've had the formal meditation, you've had some bits and pieces of um, instruction on the mind of meditation. And some of what I say will probably overlap with what Reverend Margaret or Master Ando said this morning. A couple of things that I think is helpful to clarify. One is when we talk about meditation, we're not talking about kind of just generic meditation, but we're specifically talking about Zazen. It's a specific form of meditation. Za just means sitting, and Zen means meditation. So Zazen is sitting meditation. And a key part of this practice is taking what you learned on the cushion or bench or chair, however you sit with your body, to take the attitude of mind you had with that and then apply it to everything that you do in daily life, so that everything then becomes a meditation. So then you're just brushing your teeth and just washing the dishes and just driving. Everything can be a form of meditation. And Dogen, the founder of our tradition in Japan, is quoted as saying there's no such thing as a worldly task. So everything can be part of our practice. Sometimes we call this application to daily life every minute meditation or every minute zazen. Sometimes we call it mindfulness, but it's more than just ordinary mindfulness. It's this application of zazen to everything. In this little booklet, I think you've been given links to, it's Serene Reflection Meditation. There's a really good article in here by Reverend Master Daisui on page 47. And it's called Every Minute Meditation. And it's just a little short 3 or 4 page article. I'm not going to read it or go into it in any detail, because you can look that up yourself and read it, and it's probably been covered so far in the retreat anyway. But what I want to talk about more is the mind that goes along with that. I think, as you probably have gathered, if you've looked at any of our literature or been with us for anything, we approach our meditation practice with a religious or spiritual point of view. That's the attitude we want to cultivate, and so it's helpful to talk a little bit about what that means. And there's other ways to practice Buddhism, but this is what our founder, Reverend Master G.U. Kennett, this is what she transmitted to us from what she learned in Japan, and that's colors how we conduct a practice today. I think the main thing that makes it religion is that it involves faith. Faith in what? Well, what you call it is not that important, but rather that you do it. Reverend Master G used to say, if you sit looking at a wall, you're expressing faith, because otherwise it seems a pretty stupid activity is to just sit looking at a wall and just sitting there and not doing anything. Of course, you are doing something, as we know, but to all appearances, you're just sitting there. Faith means looking up with a bright mind, with a bright heart. It involves taking everything for your own good. Reverend Master Jiyu said that was the most important thing she learned in Japan, was taking everything for her own good. Take everything positively. Try to look at everything as your teacher. Everything is the Buddha. The Buddha is our teacher. Everything is our teacher, and we can learn from it. as a spiritual practice, one of the things that really helps is commitment. And what you'll find is that to get anywhere, you have to commit to the practice. Now, that doesn't mean that all day long you have to be thinking about the practice, but rather that you make a commitment to do the practice, usually at least once a day. One of our monks talks about the 30-second minimum. We all have at least 30 seconds to sit down and meditate. And I believe what you'll find is that a few minutes done every day is of greater value than doing a whole lot on a weekend. Doing a whole lot on a weekend is helpful, but it will be more helpful to do some every day if you can. And part of the art of lay practice is finding a way to fit that meditation into your daily life, whatever your life looks like. It's an art, and you learn by practice, you learn by doing it, you find out what works for you. We recommend that you don't do other practices at the same time, not because ours is better than any other, but there's a value in that commitment to doing just one thing. So if you're interested in doing this practice and continuing it, we'll give it 2 or 3 months and just doing that, and then kind of reassess and see, is this really helping me? Is this seem to be a good fit? Is this seem something that I want to continue on, and that I can commit myself further? So just give it a little time to have it do its work. We're the slow, gradual path to enlightenment. There are no quick fixes, period. But we're certainly not the quick road to enlightenment. Ours is kind of the slow, steady, gentle path. We're the tortoise, not the hare. But just by doing the practice day by day, it brings its benefits. It has a profound effect on your life. Another part of our practice that's essential in regard to the attitude of the mind is bringing the mind of compassion. That's sort of foundational. You really can't do the practice if you don't practice compassion, because when you sit looking at yourself, you see yourself, and you see all the parts of you that you might wish weren't there, or wish that you were different. That's all, and it's good, and that's why we sit, is so we can see that in order to change that. But it's not always pleasant, and the compassionate mind is essential in contrast to the judgmental mind, or the mind of guilt. It doesn't mean we give up our discernment, but we try not to judge everything as good and bad, particularly as it relates to what I like and what I don't like. Reverend Master Jiyu used to say that we're all the worst judge of our own practice. So we try to let go of our judgment of ourselves and just try to sit still. Do it with faith, do it with a bright mind, and see what happens. I was just wanting to show you, I'm going to scoot over so you can see right behind me. We've got a poster of Avalokiteshvara on the wall. It may be too far away to see, but it's a picture of a woman in a white robe. She's sitting on a rock looking at the ocean underneath a bamboo grove, and she represents compassion. We have all sorts of pictures depicting compassion, and they're visual aids to meditation. They're a way that reminds us of practicing that compassion. And coming to know it for ourselves. You could even call what we do in daily life, you could call, instead of calling it every minute meditation, you could call it compassionate awareness. Okay? This compassion is fundamental to what we do. And it's a quality that exists in the universe, if you will. It's a part of the universe, and we can come to know that for ourselves. The other thing that makes probably, what characterizes what we do as a religious practice or spiritual practice is that we take precepts. And these are essential for maintaining the peace of mind that we get in seated meditation and preserving that, maintaining it, fostering that in daily life. They go together like a hand and a glove, formal meditation and precepts. Okay? And again, in this little book here, there's several articles on precepts. The simplest explanation, again, is by Reverend Master Daisui on page 51. It's just called the Buddhist Precepts. And the overarching precepts that are probably most helpful and ones to kind of keep in mind are what we call the three pure precepts, which are cease from evil or do no harm, do only good, do good for others. That pretty much covers everything. Then we get the 10 great precepts that flow out of that. But the three pure precepts are simple enough to keep in mind that as you consider a particular action, particular thought, particular verbal comment on something, am I ceasing from evil? Am I doing harm? Am I doing only good? Am I doing good for others? And what you find happens is in daily life, as you meditate, it's as if you expand the amount of time between the arising of a thought and the expressing of a thought. And meditation almost kind of extends that amount of time so that you have a chance to either refrain from doing what you're about to say that could be harmful, or you can come up, something will arise that's a better way to say it, or a different way, or something different to say. If you'll pause just for a minute and give your mind that little chance to reflect, you have a better chance of what we say of listening and speaking from the heart, rather than the intellectual mind, the mind with a little m. The precepts are, at the lowest level, it's a moral code, but it's much more than that, because it's an expression of Buddha nature. What do I mean by that? Well, it's how a Buddha acts, it's how a Buddha lives, it's how a Buddha speaks, it's how a Buddha thinks. And if we want to know what the Buddha is, enlightenment, Buddhahood, whatever you want to call it, we have to act like a Buddha. We have to follow in the footsteps that he walked, and which all the great masters have taught us down the centuries, and learn to do as they did. And the Buddha doesn't ask us to. We have to start with faith, but he's very insistent that we find out for ourselves that they're true, that we practice the precepts, and through our own experience prove their truth for ourselves. And once you have that experience, no one can take that away from you. No one. It's your experience. And in that way, it's one of the ways you grow your own faith, you grow your own strength, you grow your own commitment. It's yours. Couple other things that might be helpful. One is to have someone you can turn to if you need help. We offer that kind of support here. We do email, phone calls. If you get stuck, you can call and ask us. We also do regular, talks on Saturdays. It's sort of like this. There's Zoom talks at the moment. You can participate. There's usually always time for questions. It's good to have someone that you can turn to for help. We call that a refuge. The other thing that's important, another attitude of mind to cultivate, is gratitude. It's said that gratitude is the hallmark of Soto Zen, of this particular tradition in Buddhism. Gratitude is the water that primes the pump. If you know the image of an old-fashioned water pump, this is before running water, you had to crank the pump, but you had to put a little water in the mechanism in order to get it going. So Reverend Master Ji taught us that gratitude is the water that primes the pump. You have to put that gratitude in there, and that leads to enlightenment. Gratitude is one of the signs of enlightenment, and by cultivating it, we become enlightened. To express gratitude is to be enlightened. It shows where your mind is. It shows where your heart is. And the more we can be grateful to everything that's happening to us, the more we're going to have the peace of mind and heart that the Buddha found for himself, and which we're trying to find for ourselves. Another thing that the great Master Dogen taught was that there's no difference in the practice of a monk or a lay person or a man or a woman. This is a universal practice. Dogen said that it doesn't depend on the form. It all depends upon the will of the person involved. So this is a path that's open to all of us, regardless of who we are, regardless of our individual characteristics. It all depends upon what our wish is, what our heart's wish is, and our willingness to put it into practice. Another characteristic of enlightenment, said to be a sign of enlightenment, is generosity, giving. The Buddhist word for that is dana. Dogen said that all forms of industry are charity if they benefit others. Everything can be an act of generosity, and it's worth looking at your life and seeing that what you're doing is this an act of charity? Am I being generous in what I'm doing? You can be generous with your time. You can be generous with your financial means. You can be generous with your thoughts. There's just generosity is more than just contributing alms to the monastery. It's a sign of your own heart and your own, what we call the enlightened mind. And lastly, I'll say something that Reverend Master Daisui, he was the head of our order after Reverend Master Jiyu died. And one of the things he always taught us was never give up. Never give up on ourselves, never give up on other people, never give up. And it's something I've also seen that the Dalai Lama said. So, we're in good company if we kind of take that advice on. Never give up. And if this practice doesn't seem to be one that appeals to you or works for you, well, don't give up. Find something else that does. Don't give up that longing to find this deeper place within yourself. It's always hard to talk about this because we don't have a soul in Buddhism, but we do have a Buddha nature, and it's not separate then from everything around us. Everything around us is the Buddha nature as well. So don't give up that aspiration.